Please welcome director JACQUELINE MONETTA, KIKI GOSHAY, and Jared and Lauren and Anna and Kaylee. That's all right. We got more seats. You sit down. Absolutely. You got plenty. So, wow. First and foremost, I just want to acknowledge you guys for A, doing that, and B, being here. And I'd just love to know if you could talk a little bit about how it felt to participate in this film, and if you had a sense of how it would feel. Well, and have all of you seen it with an audience before?
I have no.
No, okay. So how this experience of actually sharing your story, not just with JACQUELINE and knowing it was going to be on camera, but how it felt to be here today and be able to share it with this audience of people.
Okay. Well, I'm Jared, and I don't know. I've never seen this with an audience before, and I just, especially just with it being shown in front of people that I know, I definitely know a few people here, and I don't know. I just thought it was really cool to kind of get to share my story and kind of just be here so people can see how I'm doing now.
Hi everyone. My name is Lauren and this is the second time I've seen it with an audience, but the first time I've seen it with an audience other than just friends and family. And for me, being able to share my story in a space like this, it's really empowering, especially in a story where I felt so powerless for a lot of it. It's kind of cool to be here, 3 full years later, and kind of like what Jared said, of you being able to see where I'm at now. So thank you for all coming.
Hi everyone, I'm Helene Johnson. I had actually never seen the full feature-length film yet, so it brought tears to my eyes to watch everyone here speak and people who aren't here as well. And I have friends and family here, and they had not seen it, so it was very exciting. And it's pretty amazing to look back. It's like a time capsule to look back at myself 3 years ago. And here I am, I've graduated college, I have a 9-to-5 full-time job. It's a really weird transition. And I'm doing really well. So I sort of had compassion for myself in the film, because where I was then and where I am now are two largely different places. So that is pretty amazing to just see that transition, and that's encouraging for other people too, to say, okay, wow, that's just 3 years ago. Okay, imagine the next 3 and then thereafter. So I'm very happy with the outcome. So thank you everyone who came here to see it.
Hi, I'm Callie, and I have not seen it with an audience before either. The first time I watched it, I actually watched it alone. I don't know, it felt fitting. And it's really interesting to watch it with an audience because I can picture it being seen in schools, and it just makes me really happy because I feel like not just my story, but hearing all of you guys' story, I'm so moved by them, and I find them so relatable. So I really feel kind of lucky and blessed to be part of a project that I think is going to help a lot of people. And thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a little more colorful since being in that. But I have seen the movie before with an audience. It's very strange to me, watching this with strangers that I don't know. But I think it is important because it is an uncomfortable, people get uncomfortable. People don't want to talk about suicide and depression. So watching it with people that are strangers is actually, I think, benefits it a lot. Plus, when I watch this film, I feel like I look different now. I feel like some things that I say I don't fully agree with. It's not that I don't fully agree with them, but I do have different points of views towards this subject. And So it's more like watching like a sibling or someone that I used to know when I watched the movie, not really me now because I just feel so different. But yeah, I'm glad that it was made though.
So can you also just talk a little bit about where you, I know, Lynn, you mentioned that you had a job, but where you guys are at now, and also how you're managing your mental health now, and you know, continuing your therapy, and if you've had continued struggles, or you know, how that process has worked for you.
What was the first part of that?
So basically, just what you're doing now, and how you're managing your mental health in your current.
Okay, well, so right now I am up in I'm up in Oregon for school. I had a semester down in Loyola, New Orleans, a couple of years ago. Didn't go too great. In terms of therapy and keeping up with my mental health, I am seeing a therapist currently. I'm also I'm in a different program. I mentioned in the film that I went to a boarding school, but I'm in a different program at this point, kind of to help more with the academic side of things, which I think has been equally beneficial in terms of maintaining my mental health, because you know, it kind of helps me stay on top of things and gives me the tools that I didn't really have when I started going into college. And there was a third part to that. Okay, whatever. Anyway.
No pressure on the question.
Right now, I'm a senior at Santa Clara University studying civil engineering. And next year, I'm going to be continuing my education at Santa Clara with a fifth year for my master's degree in structural engineering. As for keeping up with my mental health, in the film, I talked about how important it is to see a counselor. And I'm not seeing a consistent therapist, but whenever I'm feeling wrapped up or just needing someone to talk to, I still go to a therapist and go to counselors, and making sure that I'm advocating for myself when I need it. That also means sometimes going into office hours and going into teachers and being like, hi, I'm really depressed right now, and I can't do this, and I need some help from you. And so that's been a really big growing point for me in college, is really being able to self-advocate, so that way I can succeed still.
So I touched on it. I just graduated this past May from University of San Diego. I am now working at a real estate investment company. So that's a big transition from, like I said, from college into a 9-to-5 job. So overall, I'm doing well. I am now still living down in San Diego. My parents still live up here, so I love to come and visit. As far as mental health, and for me, it was mostly about this very intimate part of my childhood that I had really never shared with anyone. And it was, you know, very weighing on me in terms of friendships. And it was always sort of like the elephant in the room that no one else knew existed, but I could see there. So this film has actually been an amazing prompt for me to share it with new people in my life, because this has been ongoing and current. So I can say, you know, hey, I've been in this film. And then that prompts me and sort of forces me also to share my story. That way, it's kind of a nice transition into sharing versus like, hey, this is what happened when I was younger, with no transition. So that's actually been a really, really major help to help me share. So obviously, when you share in the film, you don't necessarily, you're like, okay, wait, this is actually going to be shown to people. And then people in your hometown, you're like, okay, wow, okay, everyone's going to know about it. So it actually really, it sort of helped me close a chapter in my life. I feel mentally healthy. You know, if that were to ever change, I think therapy and sharing with friends and family absolutely works. I had PTSD from what happened to me when I was younger, and consequences. And since then, I really do feel like I've made a large recovery. I don't think I could ever say 100%, just because I acknowledge that things come up, and I want to be aware of those things if they were to bubble up. But right now, I feel solid. And I just strongly believe in therapy. I think that absolutely works. So that will be my outlet. And obviously just taking care of yourself, yoga, however, which way you can get your endorphins going, it works.
So right now I'm also a senior like y'all at the University of Texas in Austin. I study creative fiction and journalism, and when I'm not in school, I'm working at a magazine right now. In terms of my mental health, after this was filmed, actually, I had a really hard time my first 2 years of college. I would say they were like worse than I was in high school, actually. That transition was just really difficult for me. And I was frustrated because I was like, well, I thought I like put in all the effort to like completely cure myself of this. So I think something that has really helped me is knowing that mental illness is something you're gonna have your whole life. It's something you deal with, and whenever you accept that, it makes it a lot easier to be hyper aware of your emotions and to be able to tune in to when you're not feeling well. I don't currently see a therapist. I haven't in probably about 1.5 years, actually, maybe 2 years. But whenever I start to feel like I'm getting really anxious or like I'm being overwhelmed with emotions, regardless of what it is, I do yoga, I meditate, I talk to friends, I do things that I enjoy and that make me happy. And I think being really hyper aware of your emotions is a really important thing. But yeah, therapy is so good. And if I ever feel like I'm at a point where I need that kind of conversation, to have that kind of conversation with someone, I have no problem going out and getting it.
I go to Chico State right now, and I'm mainly focused on early childhood education courses because I want to teach preschool this summer. I see a therapist once a week, and it's interesting. After the film, like I was 17 in the film, I'm about to turn 21. After the film, like I'm sure everyone has had to deal with like more stuff on top of just like depression and incidents that we've gone through, but I definitely did like struggle a little bit. I lost someone close to me. I had incidents happen like throughout my life, and I did feel the need to keep talking to someone about it, and I do think that it's really healthy to meet with someone, and I definitely I'm not depressed anymore. I can like confidently say that. I do get anxiety. I think that's normal. But like, I think that it is really important to meet with a therapist because it's nice that someone can listen to you and they can hear you and they can actually tell you like, no, this is normal. You can't think like this. It's really comforting. So, yeah.
Before we bring up our additional panelists, Jacqueline, can you just talk a little bit about sort of how it's been for you post-film and kind of where this has gone, and also as you've gone to college, kind of how this has kind of fed into what you're doing now?
Yeah, hi everyone. It has been a process, just from, 6 years ago in a week was the day that my friend took her life. So, and it's still hard. The month of October is always a hard month for me. And seeing the film here with all you guys today, I am so excited because I feel that it is going to make a difference. And having these teens up with me is even more exciting because we all get to share our stories and how we're doing now. Sorry. But yeah, it's been a process, and the process has been a tough one. Sorry, I'm speechless. I just have to say thank you for the teens that's sitting up with me right now because, this is a thing that I never thought I would understand. I would never understand it. But you guys have made it easier, made this whole experience, knowing 6 teens who died by suicide my 4 years of high school. You guys have made me realize the signs and made me realize how hard it is. And I can't wait to share this film with schools around the country for teens to realize that they're not alone. This is the film that I wish I had in middle school and high school. This is the film that I wish my friend had. And now it is. It's the film that teens will have.
So I'd like to invite up a few other people. Tamara Player, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Buckelew Programs. I don't know if you saw outside, they had a table with some more information that you guys can check out on your way out. They're a San Rafael-based nonprofit that provides a lot of services, including the North Bay Suicide Prevention Hotline. Dr. ELI MERRITT, who can come on up, who's a psychiatrist and wrote a Suicide Risk in the Bay Area, a book about the issue. And yeah, if you guys want to rotate a little to the front. Sorry, we can only fit so many people on this stage. JULIAN Plumadore, the Community Engagement Manager for the Mental Health Association of San Francisco, and Dr. Kim Norman, who is also a psychiatrist who volunteers at the Greenlight Clinic, among many other things. So, Kiki, do you want to say anything while we're getting settled with?
Yeah, as long as they're taking a second here to settle.
Do we have another seat back there? Do we have one more seat?
Okay,
there?
one more.
Yes, one more.
This, for all of us who've worked on this film, has been incredibly emotional, and because everyone had a connection to it. As we were shooting this, as we were editing it, we shared a lot of tears and a lot of emotion, but we always knew that we were always really proud of what all these young people told us and what they were allowing us to do. So it's been a great privilege. And as a mom of kids and a foster mom who thought she knew what life was like in high school, I learned so much from them. So, until you're sitting next to someone young that's doing the work with you, I don't think you really know what their life is like. And I feel sad to say that about my own kids' lives, but I don't really think I got the full grasp of what high school was like until I was working on this project with them.
So what I'd love to do is if you guys could sort of just briefly reintroduce and say a little bit about the type of work that your programs do, and then maybe we could just really open it up to questions.
Sure. I'm Dr. Kim Norman. I'm a professor of psychiatry at UC San Francisco, and I run a center there called the Young Adult and Family Center, which provides mental health services for teenagers and young adults, including we have a dialectic behavior therapy program specifically for addressing teen suicide.
I'm Jules Plumadore, Community Engagement Manager for the Mental Health Association of San Francisco. We have a number of community programs and resources, including our peer-run warm line, which is another way that people are able to reach out and connect. Every counselor on that warm line has their own lived experience of mental health challenges. And we also have a chat feature on there, which adds an extra layer of anonymity for anyone, including teens who are looking for support. Oftentimes that makes it more comfortable for people to reach out.
Good afternoon. I'm Tamara Player, the Chief Executive Officer with Buckelew Programs. We offer a broad range, actually, of behavioral health services to the full continuum of life. But specifically for youth, we have our suicide prevention hotline, teen screen program that provides screening for mental health, substance use, and suicidality in schools, as well as outpatient therapy program.
My name is Eli Merritt. I'm a psychiatrist in San Francisco. Been in practice for about 20 years, and in 2014, I made a little change in at least part of what I was doing and launched a mental health care navigation, very small mental health care navigation business, where I help patients and family members identify what the next best step is in mental health care and then help them find the right connections through vetted referrals. And so 2 years ago, due to personal factors, family factors, and my own history, professional factors, being a psychiatrist for almost 20 years, and then the escalation in youth suicide, what I paid attention to the most at that time was what was going on down in the peninsula, led me to want to create a care navigation book, a two-part book called Suicide Risk in the Bay Area. And it also has teaching modules really that relate to how to screen for suicide risk. And more importantly to me, the thing that's not taught is how to communicate with a person who may be hopeless, may be having suicidal thinking. And I've gone on from there to do a lot of consulting with parents. So I just want to say, I don't know how the others on the stage feel, but the film we just saw, I think really captures this spirit of learning that we really want for American society. So I want to congratulate you all and also say, what can we all do to get this really into the hands of all schools in the country? I really do believe that. One piece that I think needs to be added to is what do parents do? How can parents talk to their children who they think are at risk of suicide? So I've done tons of talks and lectures. I can't really go into how complicated it is, but it's a very scary thing, obviously, for the parent. But some skills can be, I think, obtained, and additionally, there can be a focus on health before all else that I think can be truly transformative in the life of a young person who has suicide risk. I brought 50 or 60 books for free. They're out in the lobby. And the book is also available free online as a free download. And I don't know if someone could pass out those little cards that tell people where they can find the download. Can somebody do that while we're all gathered here?
Right
yeah, they're right over there. Oh, goodness, thank you. So that's my summary. I went on a little too long. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I would love to, we have limited time, but we wanted to have as much of a discussion as possible, so I would love to take any questions for anyone. Yes, Mark?
I know that distribution is a major challenge, and it's so important for this film to be distributed. Any sense at all of timeline on availability of DVDs, Blu-rays, whatever, for parents and individual teachers?
It's available right now. You can get it online. It's also available on a lot of cable networks, but it's available on every possible video on demand. Like if it's Google or iTunes,
Amazon.
And for schools, we are using Roku, who is a Sausalito-based educational distributor. They have our curriculum and 2 different versions of the film available depending on age and time that the school might have. So we're ready and we're already getting it out there right now. You can go home and tell anybody, everyone, link to our website, and anyone could download the film today.
Yes, right there.
Forgive me, but I don't have a question. Jacqueline, I love you, and you're my hero. And in 1994, I lost a brother to suicide, and he suffered from grave mental illness that we all had to learn about because my parents knew nothing. And as his sister, and watching his struggles, and as sick as he was, I didn't even know that suicide was possibly in his psyche or a possibility for myself or my family. So the young adults on the audience, your honesty and transparency is exactly what's going to help the parents figure out what they need to do. And you will help teach a generation, and you will help the generation that's coming, because we can say knowledge is power, but I think that what society needs now is a big dose of vulnerability, and that's what you've just shown in such a poised manner. And it's the second time I've had the great pleasure to see this film, and you all are just, I know you're all going to do whatever you need to do in the best way and succeed. And thank you for answering Jacqueline's call to be in the film.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question over there on the side.
I just wanted to make a comment. I totally agree with what you're saying, and I can't wait for this to be shown in schools. But I also wanted to say to the people that were in the film, it is so amazing and wonderful and fabulous to see. I mean, it's when watching the film, you go, those people are going to succeed. You could just see that. So then seeing you on stage coming here today, thank you very much. To just see where you are right now is another amazing piece. And to hear you say that's so interesting to watch myself. It's almost like watching a sibling in the movie, or see where I am now. It's also empowering. So if there's ever any possibility for schools to also pay a fee to show, this is me now, look at, I think it's very empowering.
I know, I'm hoping at some point they let us do a little follow-up video.
Yeah.
They're hard to track down.
Yeah. Thank you for coming out, everybody, at the same time.
There's another question right there.
For those of you who were in the film, thank you. It's really good to see you here and hear how you're doing. I'm curious, Jacqueline, if you could give us an update on those who were in the film who are not here today. How are they doing?
Yeah, so a lot of people, and a couple other people in the film wanted to be here, but they couldn't with school. You know, everyone.
Gina is studying abroad. She's younger, so she's a junior in college.
She was in Berlin last weekend.
Yeah, and there were other teenagers. One of the things that we didn't mention is there were other teenagers that Jacqueline interviewed that were in the film originally who decided at some point that they weren't able to tell their story. So we actually had to edit some teens out. And we were always very willing to continually show the video to them and to their parents so that at any time they could decide if this was going to work for them or not. And it's one of the things that I lost sleep over all the time, wondering if this was really going to be good for them. And nothing makes me happier than to hear them say that they're proud of it.
Yes, all the way in the back, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me back here? Thank you so much. I'm actually an adolescent therapist, and I'm going to try to say the two things I have to say without getting too emotional. Okay, the first one I can do. I think the thing that was really stuck out for me in this is that it really showed, hearing from the team, it really shows that this starts early. I heard over and over 6th grade, 7th grade, and you know, I've been playing for so long, middle school, often harder than high school with kids. And you just showed that, and even earlier, sometimes elementary. I also have a brother who was suicidal at 10.
That's one of the things that we learned only from them. And Jacqueline and I decided it was a really important thing to put into the film, is how early these feelings started. And yeah.
Much earlier than your, way earlier than parents had any idea about most of the time. So thank you for that and honesty. And then I just want to say, I am so grateful for this film because I feel like it is such a beautiful balance, a real balance to the other film, 13 Reasons Why. And being in the field with adolescents, with adolescents, had a really hard time with that one. And this is what I wanted, this is the answer to that. So I hope it's shown everywhere.
It will be.
I just want to say one thing. We also made a shorter cut for middle schools, which is 30 minutes, and will also be shown in middle schools. So, yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to say my stepdaughter was did teen screen at TAM, and that was the first time we had any idea that she was at all feeling she had no signs, she was highly aware, like everything was really great. And so as a result of her experience, she did have to go to the residential treatment center. I became a therapeutic ed consultant, and so working in Lake County. And I'm just curious if you could answer, you don't have to answer, but I'm curious if any of you do residential treatment? You don't have to.
Yeah, I did residential treatment. I was out in Utah from the middle of my sophomore year to the middle of my junior year of high school.
When I was 16, I remember I think I told my dad that I knew I didn't feel well, and actually I was 15. I knew I didn't feel well, and I knew that if I had gone home that day, I was gonna commit suicide. And I told him in the car, and then I got put on a 5150, and then I was at a mental hospital for, I think it was 5 nights. It was really hard to be there, especially because being in a place where you're literally isolated, you're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to wear your own clothes. You have to wear, they give you clothes, and and then you see all these other kids that are there that and this was in San Francisco, so it was, I actually did know, somehow I had some weird connection to someone that was in there, but it's just so crazy to think that we all ended up in that one spot, and it prevented me from doing that, even though it was hard to stay there and it was hard to adjust. It definitely prevented me from making a bad decision. So
Yeah, just to talk about Teen Screen for a second, I think this past year we offered screening to 2,500 7th and 10th graders in San Rafael middle schools and high schools, and over 900 completed the full screen, and 54% of the students we referred on to treatment. 20% were already engaged in treatment. So when you think about that, the stories here are so real and so pervasive, and I think the pressures for youth today to be happy, to show that everything is fine, makes it really hard for people to reach out and get the help that they need. So the screenings and the services that are offered are so important because everybody can go through it and do it, right? And so it removes some of the stigma and the barrier to just saying, I need help. So thank you for sharing.
I just want to say one more thing about the treatment center, is that at first I was really resistant to go. I thought that I could just kind of grit it out and figure out all my stuff on my own. And then I kind of just realized that I couldn't. And going to Wilderness and this boarding school, both of those were just incredibly beneficial in terms of just kind of figuring everything out. And I really consider wanting to go to that boarding school to be one of the best choices I've ever made.
Hi, I'm curious. When I was 17, 18, I had many of the same feelings as you, and I was in an upper middle class family that was extremely dysfunctional. So I talk a lot about parental support, but oftentimes teenagers find themselves where, I don't want to say the parents are the source of the problem, but actually sometimes they really are, or it's just a perception. And I'm aware that many teenagers know they might have their family taken away if they say anything. So I'm curious to know what resources are available when there's not the parental support and the teenager doesn't know how to go get therapy, or, oh God, they're going to put me in some foster home. So that's my question.
Dr. Norman can tell you about a wonderful free mental health clinic for teens.
Well, you want to talk about the Green Light Clinic?
Yes.
There is a,
Please tell them about the Green Light Clinic.
Marjorie Swig, who I know is a supporter of the film and couldn't be here today, founded the Green Light Clinic, which is a free clinic located in the Presidio, and teenagers, young adults from all walks of life can come in. Teenagers, young adults can walk in, make an appointment, walk in, get counseling, and I volunteer as a psychiatrist, so when medications are indicated, I can help in that way too. So that resource is there. That resource so far does not work as much with the family, which I think is more your question. The center I run at UCSF, we call it the Young Adult and Family Center, because we always involve the family with teenagers and young adults who are suicidal. And you're right, occasionally there does have to be a separation. If the family environment is so toxic and it doesn't respond to treatment, then sometimes you have to help a child get into a safer environment. But most of the time, families work as hard as these kids did, and the healing occurs together. I just want to take one other moment to say, honestly, you really don't need a panel of experts, because the movie was so beautifully done and all of you spoke so eloquently. And I thought what you did such a beautiful job of is being hopeful, yet not being Pollyannish. You really got across the pain, the suffering, and the hard work that is necessary in order to get through. You also did a beautiful job, I thought, of really showing the variety of precipitants, sometimes depression, sometimes trauma, early childhood issues that's been commented upon. I think in order, I think this movie does provide the opportunity to fill a big gap in our social education system, because what we do know in studies on what prevents suicide from a population health perspective are programs. There's one called SOS, Signs of Suicide. But when you teach the signs of suicide on a population level, teach it to every parent and everybody in the community, it does make a difference. And having a film like this to show and then discuss in every community, I think would make a huge, huge impact. We also, I know that you did a good job of showing the crisis text line, which is a resource to get online counseling. as well as suicide prevention. We need a lot more resources, because it's one thing to exchange text and get referral to help. You have to have a place where people can go. So the Green Light Clinic is one, our clinic at UCSF, but we need a lot more effort made around therapeutics that are more scalable. The kind of labor-intensive one-on-one psychotherapy really does work and is really essential for many, but many people heal and grow in other ways too. So making available group therapies, curriculums like you've developed that can be online that people can take, also can make a massive difference, I think, in terms of making therapy much more accessible, as well as something that we can talk about matter-of-factly like we talk about any other important social issue.
Yeah, and in fact, Buckelew is one of those resources when it comes to affordable help.
Yes.
I know as a foster mom, Buckelew is where that's where I brought my foster children for mental health care.
Yeah, so in addition to the outpatient therapy that we do, and we do offer a sliding fee scale and really work with everybody to provide the treatment, and we do the individual work, so if it's just the youth that wants to come in, we can do that, or we also specialize in working with families and trauma work. So, really able to meet that gamut of needs. Beyond that, our suicide prevention hotline, I think, is another way for youth to reach out. And I will say our numbers show us that they do. Almost 1,300 youth reached out last year to access our hotline. 40% of them really talked about pretty significant depression, and 20% actually had attempted suicide prior to calling. And so I think having the resources available in our community, it's a way to connect, it's a way for us to help them learn about other resources, because families oftentimes can be part of the challenge, perceived or real. So having somebody to talk to and to listen is really important. And
so go ahead, Julian.
Well, I just wanted to add a couple of words also about the importance of peer support. This is something that we're increasingly seeing being recognized as a best practice, and especially when people who have experienced suicidality themselves, who may be suicide attempt survivors, reach out and are available in a capacity perhaps as a peer counselor or as someone who can speak to the experience at a deep personal level. That's another support that's increasingly available. We offer it at MHASF. We've run groups for suicide attempt survivors where they're able to talk to one another about these experiences and share that in a way that helps to connect at a level that I identify as a suicide attempt survivor myself, as I had teen suicidality, and had a great deal of difficulty finding anyone who understood. There's so much silence, so much stigma around this, that even when I found the courage to come forward and talk about this, people didn't want to talk about it. They were afraid of making things worse. They were afraid they were going to say the wrong thing. They wanted to pretend it didn't exist. So being able to find other people who knew what this experience felt from the inside out was transformative for me, and it continues to be transformative for a lot of folks today.
I hate to say that I'm afraid we don't have time for any more questions. I would love to sit here for like another hour at least, and I know you guys would too. And it's a festival, and they want to actually put another movie in here.
Can I say one parting word?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. If you guys had a couple.
We have an audience. You got these little stickers to vote for us for the audience award. We really want to get that award because it helps us get press. So if you could give us 5 stars, that'd be great. And also I wanted to thank Northern Trust. Northern Trust gave me scholarship tickets. They bought 100 tickets for me, and I was able to distribute them to teachers and counselors in our district. So thank you so much, Northern Trust.
And then I have one more thing. I just want to say thank you, everyone that is here today. Honestly, you just being in the seat, listening to these amazing stories is going to make such a difference. The film is a great resource, but to really make action, to really save another life, to get mental health awareness, people starting talking about it, it takes the action. So please reach out to people, give hugs, talk, actively listen, and just spread awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for coming and doing all of this. You guys were amazing. Thank you all for coming.